All right, welcome to the Next Level Life Show. I'm your host, Bill Hargenrader, creator of The Next Level Life and best-selling author of Mars Journey Call to Action. I'm here today with a fabulous guest, Priya. How's it going, Priya?
Really well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. This is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna read your bio, and then we're gonna get into basically your story and why you do what you do. And so get things kicked off. Priya Rana Kapoor is a life and leadership coach based in Santa Barbara, California, and London, England, as well as author of Give Yourself Permission to Live Your Life. She's an international transition life coach. Her work is to support you in achieving your best life possible. And people work with a coach when they're feeling confused or stuck about work or personal issues. They know they want to make changes, but they don't know how. And that's a lot of what Priya, what you focus on helping people with. So once again, welcome to the show. And let's start off a little bit about this. Give yourself permission. What does that mean to you, and why is it so important for you to write a book and for that to be your main message?
Well, definitely. I wrote this book because of 10 years worth of working with clients. So I've been coaching. I have a degree in marriage and family therapy from the University of Southern California. I'm a Trojan at heart. Have to plug it in there. But anyhow, so I've worked with clients for a long time. And it dawned on me that actually all the success or the happiness or anything that people wanted, there was a lot getting in their way. And one of the things that was getting in their way that people weren't really talking about was that they weren't giving themselves permission. So I'd say this to them, they'd say, oh, I really want this to happen, or blah, blah, blah. And I said, but you're not giving yourself permission. And they said, of course I am. How ridiculous. Why would I not give myself permission to make money or to be successful? And I'm like, okay, let's look at this. And so that's where it came from. And that's why I thought, you know what, I'm going to write a book about this.
Yeah. So what are some things in your life where did you, so giving yourself permission is kind of a learned thing. You might just naturally give yourself permission or not, and we do it both in different areas. Mm-hmm. Where did you start making, I guess in your life, can you trace back to any parts where you gave yourself permission and you look back and like, oh yeah, that's when I started doing that?
Yeah, I think so often people they look for permission from other people. So we look for approval, and that's where we get our permission from, as it were. It's from other people. So I spent my whole life seeking other people's approval, especially my family's, and I wanted to be the good girl and do the right thing. And so I lost a lot of my life because I wanted to please everybody else. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that.
Oh, yeah.
And it got to the point where I was, I'd been on my honeymoon in Egypt, and I'd actually got sick, and I came back to the US. They did all sorts of tests. I couldn't walk or move down my left side. So we didn't know what was going on. Ultimately, I have MS. And so that was the first stages of MS in the middle of the Nile in Egypt. But I came home, and my boss called me up, and he was the head of admission at USC. So at the University of Southern California, I worked at admission, and he had 300 people underneath him. And he called me up and he said, I'm going to come and visit you. And I'm like, why would you visit me? Who am I? Who am I? Why would you do that? Right. But he came and he sat with me for 4 hours. And when he left, I was exhausted. But all of a sudden I said, why did he come?
Yeah.
Why am I worthy of this? And then I thought, actually, I must be worth something if he sat with me. Wow. And his kindness made me realize that I was worth something. I was not going to let this illness get the better of me. I am me, and I was going to do what I needed to do for my life. And I gave myself permission to live my life at that point.
Wow. That's great. That's great. That's it's also those types of experiences are, a reminder of how we can pay it back or pay it forward. And, I think in kind of putting a book together like this, that's been out for a while, and also in the life coaching, I think that's a clear reflection on, hey, you took a powerful experience and now you're helping others, kind of through the lessons that you've learned.
Yeah, because someone had helped you. So there's a whole chapter in the book called Dream Team Members, yeah. and it's a really important bit. Take stock of the people that have put out their hand to help you, because they see you from the outside. And so that's not approval from them, but they've done it on their own fruition. And so he was one of those. So he's the head of my dream team. And I think everybody has it, even though people will say they don't, but they do. And it could be just the cobbler on, the flower person who gave you a flower just because. So.
No, that's great. So normally, well, we talk about influences and books and speakers, but and we're talking about your book in a little bit. But now that we're talking about your book, we'll focus on that, and then we'll get to the influences later if that works for you.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah. I think so. I'm curious. So how a book like this? How long did it take you to write? What's the journey like for you? I mean, did you when on the final? Because I know my wife Danielle, she wrote a book, Unleash Your Inner Diabetes down there. It took her 4 years.
Which I have.
Yeah, great. Yes, you do. Took her 4 years. Thank you. Took her 4 years to write the book, and by the time she was rewriting, like the seventh or eighth time, it's like her voice when she was the 4 year ago self, even though it was the same purpose, it was a totally different voice. So did you experience anything like that? Can you tell us more about the journey with your book?
Absolutely. You know, I don't know. Probably when I was about 9 years old is when I decided that I was going to write a book one day.
Nice.
I had no idea what it was going to be about. And when I was first diagnosed with MS, I thought I was going to, you know, write about my journey with MS, or because I'm actually asymptomatic now and I don't take any medication, but I'm not saying that everybody should not take medication. I have for years. So I thought I'd write about that journey. So I was always wanting to write a book, and then I went to some conference or something in January, and someone said, what do you want to get done this year? It was 2012.
Yeah.
And I said, it was 2013. Well, 2012. I said, I'm going to get the book finished in 1 year. And I hadn't even started it. So anyhow, long or the short of it, I thought, no, you know what? I don't want to write about the journey with MS. I want to do something that I've learned from my clients, because I've learned so much. So I wanted to do empowerment and freedom. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Long and the short of it, the Give Yourself Permission came up. And I thought, okay. So all in all, it took me about 1.5 years to write the book. And I completely sequestered myself. I didn't see my friends. I didn't talk to anybody. Yeah, I was obsessed. I was obsessed. I was working on Sundays, and I took myself out, and I went to a club and just worked all day, every day. Didn't see many clients. By the grace of God.
Did you say club?
Yeah, it's a club in London where they had a business center. So I took myself out of my house.
Okay, all right.
So,
club in America, that means like oons, oons, oons.
Oh yeah, no. Although no, it's like a eating, you know, it's just like a country club. I know that sounds.
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
But in London, they have work centers there.
Yeah.
And so I took myself away and just completely focused myself. And I think that's the best way for me to work. And I think it really helps but I didn't have children at home, and I didn't have a partner at home. So I do understand how that, you know, you got to play those kind of hoops, as it were. Yeah. So I just found it really lucky. I was in exactly the right time, place, and space to write the book. And I knew that it was divinely being given to me. One tip I'll say about this is I listen to Stephen Halpen's music, which is like theta, the brain waves for creativity. Okay. Yeah. So I will highly recommend doing that. So I put my noise canceling headphones in, zoned, and
Very cool. Awesome.
So that's right.
Yeah. Well, this is probably a good time to talk about those influences on you. Who are maybe like some of the books you read growing up, or even ones that you're reading now, some books or some authors or some speakers that influenced you?
I would say Dr. DeMartini is probably one of my biggest influences. I really like DeMartini. I did breakthrough experience in Houston. I flew all the way from London to Houston to do it. But I really like his values work. And I'm I start with my clients a lot with self-worth on one end, and then values. What are your values? Yeah. How can you live by your values and use those as a roadmap? So really into breakthrough and DeMartini. Of course, you know, you can't, I know this is trite, but I love Louise Hay. I just do. Okay. Yeah, I love it.
Dude, so I mean, it's not, oh, that's right. That's great. Yeah.
Or it's obvious or common, or I don't know, but I'll always cop to it, you know, because, sorry, I shouldn't, but it's just so much. She was so inspirational starting Hay House at 60 years old. Yeah. So as I get older, to remember that allows me to be less stressed. as things go on. So, so the work that she's done, the work with the AIDS community in the 80s, her story, everything. So there's a lot there. And you know what the other thing is with that, I can refer a lot of my clients, because a lot of my clients are new to personal development and spirituality in some ways. So when they start to ask questions about spirituality, I will refer to Louise Hay and Hay House, because that's a good springboard.
No, no, that's awesome. That's great. And we actually, you and I met, and one of the things I stress to people that are watching that, you know, the show's called Next Level Life. And, you know, it's about taking your life to the next level, about living what your purpose and your passion. And also it's about being a lifestyle entrepreneur. And that's, you know, focusing on, you know, not just, you know, getting, you know, paid. It's about, you know, time freedom, geographic freedom to travel. And it's also about getting out there and learning and getting in. And you and I met at an industry event, at a training event, and several times. And that's just one of the biggest, best things that you can do. You can do a lot of book learning, you can do a lot of learning online, you can do a lot of, you know, self work, but you gotta get out there and get to an event and get around. Brendan Burchard, Experts Academy is one of the ones that we did. Went to Tony Robbins, you know, Unleash the Power Within. Have you been to a Tony Robbins event before?
You know what? I haven't.
Okay.
I have not, and I keep threatening to go.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've gone to different ones. Masses of different ones. Sometimes you think, oh my God, I've done too much. I can't do anymore.
Yeah. But it's about getting out there and continuing to learn and continue to improve. And that's I'll check out Dr. DeMartini actually. What are some? So you said that. What are some of the focuses of that one that you're talking about?
DeMartini, it's all about balance. First of all, when good things happen, when bad things happen, good things happen. It's balancing things out. So, and he's a phenomenal speaker. I mean, he speaks 300 days of the year.
Really?
Lots of groups. Yeah. He lives on the World, which is the ship that sails around the world.
Okay.
So, but he's living there 65 days of the year. So otherwise, he's touring the world, and so he does a program called Breakthrough Experience, which is really again about breaking through things that are holding you back from your past. So, but values work is his big thing. So,
interesting. Yeah. On the world ship, I didn't even know about that. So
yeah, you buy a cabin, and then you just live on it. It's for tax purposes, but who knows?
Yeah. So were you on that ship in Texas? Was it in Harbor?
No. I don't know where. I think he said it was like in the Indian Ocean at the time. So he goes back and forth. I don't know.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think there is some tax like loophole where like if you're on a ship, you're in international waters or something, and it counts like you're outside of so.
It does, but he's still in, it depends where his company is. And anyhow,
Well, anyway, the world ship, pretty cool stuff. So let's move on to some some of your top 3 tips, some of the top 3 things that you might give to a client or somebody that's watching this right now and is drawn to that message of give yourself permission. So I mean, what would be the number one thing that you would there's probably obviously there's a 1,000 things and 1,000 pieces of advice, and it's not the number one thing in the world, but what would be one really great tip that you would give somebody looking to kind of get things right in their head or in their life?
Yeah, I think the first one is to strive for a sense of self and a sense of understanding yourself, self-awareness and self-love. And I know this all sounds very selfish, and that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. And honestly, we do all pretty much want to take care of other people that are our loved ones and our families and people we care about. That is oftentimes human beings' purpose on life, is to interact with other people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people interact and help and are selfless in the way they do that, and they get sick. And this goes back to one of the things I think that maybe one of the MS came is because I had been not taking care of myself. I'd been taking care of everybody else and putting myself on the back burner to the point that the body finally said, hey, what about me?
Right.
Take care of me. And so I just urge people first off is to know they matter, and which is the first chapter of the book. Give yourself permission to know you matter. And that is the hardest thing for my clients to do. So I really encourage people to do anything they can possibly do quietly. You don't have to tell everybody, that you're actually working on loving yourself, but do it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting and it's awesome piece of advice, and it's also one of the things about, from a business perspective, life coaching business, a coaching business where you have to know your market, and your market is made up of individuals, and sometimes when concepts of self-love to you are just so, yeah, obviously self-love is hugely important. You have to remember that a lot of times people out there might not know that, so that's great that you're able to kind of put yourself in that perspective and get that message out there.
And I also think that even if we know it,
Yeah.
it's hard to do, because sometimes you think, oh gosh, who am I to do this? Really, I should just be working more. I've got to get the money in, and all this sort of stuff. And so you forget at all points. So it's coming back to that. Oh, am I being kind to myself in this situation? No. Okay, how am I going to change it? So I think no matter where you are on the spectrum of personal development, we can keep back to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Keep coming back to it. Remind yourself, set little things up. Tell yourself you love yourself in the mirror. Wait, isn't that right? Should I stop doing that? Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. Who's looking? You're like, it's like vision boards. Sometimes people don't want to show those out. I said, okay, put them behind the door. Hide them. It's okay.
Danielle and I have those right when you walk in our door, right at the top of the stairs. They're right there. Oh, you don't like it? Get out. All right, so that's a great one. No matter. We'll be number 2 one. We'll be a second tip that we can give out here.
I think the second one, and this is really strange, when you start sort of seeing things for what they are, you start thinking, oh my goodness, my job is not in my life purpose. And so I guess the second piece of advice, rather controversial, I think maybe, is don't quit your job right away. So what I mean by that is to live in your life purpose and in your flow. Your job sometimes may not be in sync with that, but you still have to make ends meet. And one day, it's how you can get to that point. Don't throw the toys out of the pram. So, don't throw the toys out. And I have clients that come to me and they say, I'm quitting my job tomorrow. I'm like, wait. So really what I mean by that is find your purpose and your flow in your job somehow. Do you want to share the story you were telling me just beforehand about being in the military and finding?
Yeah, sure. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I love that tip, and I got to think about, you can leap it, and the net will appear, or you can start building that net, and then leap later, and you kind of know, you kind of balance those two things out. But we're talking about basically for me, one of my defining moments. I joined the military after 9/11. I was in the Army. And I went to Iraq, and basically I was using my skill set as a information systems technology administrator. And when I got there, they messed up my paperwork. Imagine the government, United States government, messing up paperwork. And my rank was like a private, and it should have been like 3 ranks higher. So they matched me up for the first 2 weeks with the unit that was leaving with the lowest ranking person who had one of the lowest skill sets. And I just said to myself, I know for the next year we're going to be doing low-level stuff when I have a higher skill set and a higher purpose. So I ended up using my networking skills, made friends with a staff sergeant several levels above me, and by the time he left in 2 weeks, he actually knew my purpose, knew my worth, because I'd focused on it and learned and trained. He actually crossed the name out and put my name out. So for the rest of the year, I knew that I was doing something that was worthwhile.
Yeah. Exactly. And so you got into your purpose and your passion and your flow, whatever you want to call it, but you got to a place where you were doing something that you were good at, that you liked, and that you were adding. Because you were finally in a place where you were adding to the work that was being done by the US military in Iraq at that time.
Yeah.
So you were contributing to the cause, and you were doing it in a way that was good for you, but you didn't start that way. And so that's what I mean. I said, you can't leave the Army. You can't go anymore. I mean, you can. Probably not a good idea. Yeah. So you didn't really have the option to leave, but you actually figured it out. So that's what I mean. That's my second tip. Don't quit. Figure it out. Figure out how you can get to where you want to be in a safe environment.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Another one, a more, for a corporate level position or something like that, is what skill sets are you going to need, if you want to, charge out on your own. So I'm a project manager by trade. I focus innovation and cybersecurity, but I go into project management because almost everything you do, is a project. You have milestones, you have an outcome. So can you get into project management? Do you Do you want to need to talk more sales? Maybe there's a sales type thing you can do. Maybe you can do more presentations and just start within the role that you're at. Start doing the things that prepare yourself for the job that you want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the nail on the head, as it were, the head on the nail, whatever it is. But that's the truth. Figure out what you like to do. See, a lot of people don't give themselves permission to figure out what it is exactly they like to do.
Yeah.
So
I love it. All right, let's go into a third one then. What would be a third tip, a third top tip you would give out?
Okay, this is a really quick, and I love this one. And when I work with clients, people get it right away, and it changes a lot for them. So it's figuring out what you can control, what you can't control, and what you can influence. So I have the circles of control that people use. It's called spheres of control. It's called spheres of influence. It's called all sorts of things. It's used in psych. It's used in coaching. It's used in business. And so actually it's in the book, and you can get a download from the website, whatever. But this is my one thing where it can switch. Once you figure out that you cannot control the wedding, and you cannot control the weather on your wedding day, you realize that there are other ways you can influence the wedding going well by having it indoors. So stop worrying about the stuff you can't control, because we actually oftentimes worry about things we can't control, but we haven't identified the fact that we can't control them.
Yeah.
So, and then there's that space in between of the influence. So we figure out what we can't control, figure out what we can control, and sometimes we think we have more control than we really do. So we can figure out that influence. So there's a lot more in the influence area than what people think. So that's communication. So that's the beginning of that's the springboard of a lot of work. So that's my other tip.
No, that's great. So what would you do then? What would be a way somebody could put that into action?
So if you have a problem, so if you have like you're trying to figure something out at work, you're trying to talk to, if maybe you're having some conflict with a boss or a colleague. And so figure out what you can control in the situation. Are you going to be able to control this person's anger? Maybe they're a really angry person. Are you going to be able to control that? No.
Right.
But are you going to be able to control how you react to that and how you let it come into you? Yeah, you're going to be able to control that. Even though it's painful and it hurts, you get to figure out how you're going to deal with it. Yeah. And then you can control how you're going to influence the situation. Now, you don't want to pander to them so they're not angry. They're just an angry person. So, how can you work it so it's to your best advantage? So, I mean, that could be manipulation. And I don't actually think that manipulation is a bad thing some of the time. Quite a bit of the time. It's just figuring out what works.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, totally. That's I guess it's when I think of that, how I use action triggers or signals, and usually when it's like you start to fear something, you start to get angry. That reminds me to start thinking about, well, what can I really control? What's really happening in the situation? What does this really mean? So you don't have to run around with a notebook all the time, but when you start just to associate, hey, I'm feeling this certain way. Now it's time for me to step back, and analyze and get to work, because what ends up happening. I mean, if you live your life where you're focusing more on what you can control and less on what you can't, what happens to you? How's that for you up?
If you're focusing more on what you can control, right,
and less. Let's say I'm spending 50% of my time on what I can't, and now I'm starting to do this, and now I'm just spending 80% of my time on what I can, and just kind of letting the other 20% go.
Well, I would think it. I mean, I think it makes me more productive, and less stressed, and anxious, and it's a form of self-care. It is. It's back to this. I matter. What I can control matters more than what I can't control.
There you go. I totally 100% agree with you. And I tell you, we talked for about 20 minutes prior to the show. We could probably talk for hours, but we do want to keep this at a reasonable length. So we're gonna move on to like next projects. What are some things that you're working on that we want to let our audience know about that's important to you, that could be important to them?
Right. So my book has the book I wrote about has my own story and stories of my clients in it. So we realized that there's a place for other people's stories to be heard, of where they gave themselves permission to live their own life and how they did it, what was going on, and what they did to move to a life that they're more content with. So we published a magazine last year, the Give Yourself Permission magazine. So that was very successful and people really enjoyed it. But what we realized, we only had 14 stories in that. And they were only going to be sitting on the shelf. Barnes & Noble bought them and it was all over. It was really successful. But what we realized, we only had 14 stories for 3 months. And that wasn't going to fly with us, because some of these stories were so poignant and so we'd been entrusted with people's stories, and they had poured themselves out there and really taken a risk. And it wasn't enough for me as the editor and my husband as the publisher to just give them the platform for 3 months. So we're moving it into a book. It's going to be the anthology, the Give Yourself Permission anthology.
Okay.
It's going to be 55 stories. And we are actively looking for people's stories of where they gave themselves permission to do something. And we want to hear it, because we want that. We want you to be able to share that with the world. And for next 30 years. If you look at Chicken Soup for the Soul, it's been out 25, 30 years since the first one. And it's still selling.
Yeah.
So we're looking for stories. We're looking for people's stories, and we're looking to publish that in May.
Awesome. So then we'll post a link for that down below, some way for them to get in contact with you, or find what the guidelines are for submission. We'll also post any links to your site or the book itself. We'll put it all below. It's really, I think that you know, just it's an amazing message to give out there, and you don't hear it enough. And just to have a book with that message right there as a title, I mean, even if it's on your shelf. You know,
yeah.
You just pass by and it's like, oh yeah, you know, do you have that? I mean, it's on your wall back there. Is that a nice reminder for you, or what?
And it's something that you can give someone else that you may think maybe isn't going down the line of personal development that you would like them to.
There you go.
Good luck with that, you know. But you can give this book to them, and they may not read it in the first 3 years. But they might afterwards, you know.
Yeah.
That when the time is right, you know, the teacher will appear, and the teacher can be you. The teacher can be any one of the authors of the 55 stories, and so that's what's important. Everybody has a story,
Yeah.
and everybody wants to know they're not alone.
And that's so true. I have the bookshelf behind me. Some books I have when I was like 15 years old, and I'll be working out. I'll look over, and it'll just be like the book on decision making. I'm like, what? I need that, you know. But okay, so this is great. This has been awesome. We're going to wrap things up. This has been a really fun show. It was really great talking with you. For the audience, for the viewer right now, if you liked what you watched, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe for more videos. We're going to post all of Priya's links and links to her book and her website below. Sign up for that. If you're interested in telling your story and getting out there in a bigger way, sign up and see if we can get in the book. And we will see you on the next video. Thanks for joining in. Thanks, Priya.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.